everybody. Good day. We're going to talk about maxims of law. Yeah, let's learn something about maxims of law. I got something to read. Maxims of Law, a preamble by Richard Anthony. Maxims are the foundation of the laws of man relations, in brackets he has commerce, as a foundation is a part of a building. Having their basis in God's law, maxims of law, they are fundamental and immutable. No one of sound mind argues against maxims because they are the bedrock of logic, of reason, of common sense, of truth. The maxims are fundamental principles upon which all that is right, just, and true is founded, and are the standards to measure the corrections of any course or action. The word maxim is defined as an expression of an absolute truth or principle. Maxims are so powerful and unequivocal that they are the foundation of all relationships between man and his fellow man. Maxims have the power to cut to the heart of a matter in a heartbeat with reason, logic, and authority. Maxims cover every topic imaginable and every aspect of lives of man. Maxims are not easily misunderstood, misspelled, or subverted. Maxims are universally accepted for what they are, self-evident. Truths. Maxims are considered the infallible emergency backup system when all else fails. Anyone who is not schooled in the logic of maxims is easily confused for the want of comprehension and understanding. The legal profession has a vested interest in keeping the people ignorant of these principles, protecting the need of the arcane priestcraft. Priestcraft is, and then he's got in quotes, the arcane craft of specialists always striving to create the illusion their craft is too complex to be understood by the uninitiated. It doesn't take a law degree to understand maxims. End of preamble by Richard Anthony. And then following is a select collective of maxims of law by Court of Family Fernet for the enlightenment of all man. There's quite a bit to read here. So now these are maxims. I'm not looking in the camera. I'll try to do like this. Actually, if I can set this here, that might help. All right. The law of God and the natural law of the land and the common law are one and the same. The law of God law cannot be affected, degraded, amended, voided. Deuteronomy 12:32. Whatever I command thee, ye shall not add to nor take away from it. Man and land are one. In brackets, it reads, man and land, earth and soil, that's in brackets, are one. The common law of the land is the perfection of reason. So he's got in brackets of the land. Same with the next one here. The common law of the land is above government. The law is from the everlasting. The law of nature is unchanging. There's a lot of maxims. All are equal under God. All are equal under the law. It is self-evident that all men have equal, absolute, inalienable rights endowed by the Creator. One cannot serve both God and mammon. Matthew 6:4. One cannot serve two masters. Matthew 6:4. The created cannot be greater. The created cannot be greater than the Creator. The law is harsh, but that is the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, is not a defense. Maxims of law are the foundations of law. Maxims of law are based on God's law, therefore are fundamental and immutable. Remove the foundation and all falls. Luke 6:48. All claims fail without foundation. In default of law, the maxims rule. We are all servants of the law. A lot of maxims. This goes on. Courts, whether of the king or of the people or of parliament, are established not by written law, but by common law. Tyranny begins where law ends. Custom is observed for law. A traitor is punished, that by the death of one, all may not perish. Survival, self-preservation, is the first law of nature. Survival, self-preservation, is the first right of man. The first right of man is to defend himself and his property, both temporal and spiritual. No man is bound to arm his opponent. No one may make a claim in the name of another. No man has a right not to be offended. Property is what is proper to a man, exclusive for all others in the exclusive of all others in the universe. No man has a right to take the property of another without consent of the owner, without free will of the owner. He who makes owns. Rights come from God, privileges come from man. Rights come from the everlasting God. Privileges come from man. Nothing is unchangeable but the inherent and non-alienable rights of man. Rights cannot be taxed. Rights never die. Ooh, this goes on. I'm going to keep reading. Hey, Josh Eddie. How you doing? Glad you're here. I think I'm going to have you back on for a talk. Yeah, coming up in a day or two, maybe. A lot of maxims here. It's really good information. This is something that should be a kid's book. I'm serious. I might even do that. Rights never die. He who uses his rights harms no one. A right cannot arise from a wrong. Rights abused still remain rights. A right cannot be converted into a crime. No man may be charged for exercising a right. No man has a right to deny or trespass on the equal rights of another man. No man has a right to permit another man to act outside the law. Statutes are not law, and no act statuted as law is valid if it waives a fundamental right in order to comply with the demands of something called the state. A workman is worthy of his hire. It is unjust to allow some to merchandise and to prohibit others. Might does not make right. Where there is a right, there is a remedy. Wherever there is a wrong, their damages follow. No man shall act outside the law to uphold the law. No man shall permit another man to act outside the law. To deny or trespass on a right of another man is an act of war. Those who advocate pacifism in time of despotism, tyranny, and terrorism by government are traitors to man, liberty, and the law of the land. Malfeasance in public office is a tort. A tort is an act of war. A trespass is an act of war. Punish harshly a few to deter the many from doing wrong. To tell the truth is extreme. To tell less is to lie. No man has a right to kill an aggressor, though the ultimate intent of the aggressor is not to kill. The law of the land allows man to kill an aggressor, though the ultimate intent of the aggressor may not be to kill. Badges, symbols, and uniforms do not grant extra rights, nor reduce or overreach right of man. Badges, symbols, and uniforms do not protect a wrongdoer from liability for harming another. An office ought not be injurious to any man. That what is inequitable is not law. That what goes against the mind is not law. The law is for all, or it is for none. No man is above the law. Every man is independent of the law except those prescribed by nature, God. The king, monarch, be so high, the law is above the king. Law is silent in time of war. The common law is superior to and overreaches statute law in every case. The statute should be harmonious with the common law. Statutes are not law, and no act statuted as law is valid if it waives a fundamental right in order to comply with the demands of something called the state or government. There is no such thing as bad law, because if it is bad, it is not law. Man is not bound by any institution formed by another man without consent. Contract, agreement makes the law. The agreement of the parties makes the law of the contract. The agreement of the parties overrides the law. Agreements give the law to a contract. Consent makes the law. For joinder to be lawful, there must be free will, agreement, and free will, consent of all parties. The common law will not allow a statute to be used as a cloak for fraud. Contempt of court is a creature of common law. The statute is a contractual legal instrument of commerce. All statutes must be agreed upon. A statute needs consent to have the power of law. The statute, contrary to common law, is void at inception. Long use does not make lawful or void statute. Statute is private law. False spelling or false grammar does not vitiate an affidavit. False spelling or false grammar does not vitiate an affidavit. A privilege, as it were, is a private law. This goes on. Vain does he who offends against the law. Seek the help of the law. Thy who commit iniquity shall not receive equity. Sovereignty in the people, not the government. Man makes government, therefore man is higher than government. The government is subject to man and the law, because man and the law make government. The government cannot confer a power, nor favor, nor a privilege which occasions injury or loss to others. Government is the servant of man. The first duty of government is to protect man and the property, both temporal and spiritual, of man. Government was not created to diminish or destroy the property, both temporal and spiritual, of man. The law is not to be trespassed upon by those in government. A government that enacts a statute contrary to common law is an enemy at war with the people. A government that enacts statutes trespassing on the right of man is an enemy at war with the people. The greatest enemies to man are unlawful force and wrong. Unlawful force and wrong are greatly contrary to peace. Force is incremental to law. Nothing is so contrary to consent as force and fear. Constructive force. No man shall be taken by force from his house to be conducted before a judge. A wrongdoer puts himself behind the protection of law and deserves no mercy from anyone, least of all from his victim. Man has the right to take up and use arms against the armed aggressor. Ignorance of the law does not excuse misconduct by anyone, least of all sworn officer of the law. Ignorance of fact excuses. Ignorance of law does not. The law punishes falsehoods. Where damages are given, the losing party should pay the cost of the victor. He who acts through another acts for himself. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not speak falsely before the king, nor before the judge, nor in the assembly of the princes, nor in the presence of the ruler, nor unto the minister of the law, nor among the multitude, nor in the ear of thy friend, nor thy wife, nor thy child, nor thy servant. Neither shalt thou withhold the truth from the king, nor the judge, nor him that is set in authority. For thus shall righteousness be established in all thy borders. How much got to go here? Wow, there's a lot to go back. There's a lot to read on here. So, 20 minutes. Where did I gotta find where I left off there. I think I got it. We'll keep going. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not trespass upon anything that is thy neighbor's, to take it from him, nor to destroy it. Neither shalt thou trespass upon the stranger that dwelleth within thy gates, to destroy his substance, nor to take it from him. For to thee he looketh for justice, and a shield around about all that he hath. And the fear of the Lord thy God is upon him also, and to his righteousness he also seeketh. Neither shalt thou overreach him by cunning, nor by stratagem. Strange word. Stratagem, to take his substance from thy neighbor, nor the stranger with thy gates. Remember that ye were strangers, and were oppressed, and oppress not the stranger, lest his cry ascend to God against you. The habitation of each man is an inviolable asylum for him. The habitation of each man is an inviolable asylum for him. The poorest man may, in his cottage, bid defense to all the forces of the crown. It may be frail, its roof may shake, the wind may blow through it, the storm may enter, the rains may enter, but the King of England cannot enter, for all his force does not cross the threshold of the ruined tenement. William Pitt, Earl of Gotham, 1708-1778, British Whigham statesman, Prime Minister, 1776, a speech in March, reign of George III. I guess I got to read a speech now. Wow. All right. Yeah. Take care of the pipe. Yes, indeed. It's been cold here. 10 degrees, 0 degrees, snow. Got more snow coming. All right. I guess this is speech. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor his bondman, nor his bondwoman, nor his manservant, nor his womanservant, nor his horse, nor his carriage, nor the instruments of his labor, nor the produce of his land, nor the things that he has made, nor the treasures that he has in store, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Thy desire shall not be upon them, to take them by stealth, nor by fraud, nor by cunning, nor by violence. Neither shalt thou covet that which belongeth to the stranger that dwelleth within the gates. But thou shalt improve thine own, and they shall desire shall be unto it, lest thou be corrupt, and the hand of thy neighbor be against thee, and the cry of the poor ascend to God against thee. Conciliate with thine advisory quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Matthew 5:25-26. You will not be free till you have paid the last penny. Matthew 5:25-26. Legality is not reality. Legality is fiction. Where truth is, fiction of law does not exist. Fiction of law is wrongful when it works loss or injure to any man. Legal fiction is wrongful when it works loss or injury to any man. A legal fiction is bound by legislation and statutory duties. Man is not. Trademarks cannot sue nor be sued. Corporations, being legal fictions, do not work loss or injury to any man. It is man, often in the name of a legal fiction, who works loss or injury to man. Legal fiction is legal fraud. A claim made in the name of a fictitious plaintiff is a contempt of court. Reference Black Law Dictionary editions 4th, 5th, and 6th. No later editions are corrupted by misinformation and political correctness and giving legal fictions greater importance than they have at law proper. Fiction is fiction. Is fiction. Is fiction ad infinitum. Fraud is fraud. Is fraud. Is fraud ad infinitum. Gross negligence is a fault. Gross fault is a fraud. A right of action cannot arise out of fraud. No one acquires a right of action through his own fraud. Fraud viterates a contract. Fraud voids a contract. Fraud viterates the most solemn promise. Injury caused by intentional misrepresentation or concealing facts which are bound by duty or required is fraud. Deceit is an artifice, since it pretends one thing and does another. He is not to be heard who alleges things contradictory to each other. False is one, false is all. Once a fraud, always a fraud. Once a knave, always a knave. It is a fault for a man not to know his everyday job. A concealed fault is equal to a deceit. It is a fraud to conceal. It is a fraud to conceal a fraud. A fraud, though null and void, is valid against the defrauders. It is fraud to take emolument for inferior work done. He who does an action through another is adjudged in law to do it himself. He who conceals treason commits treason. It is treason to conceal treason. It is a crime to conceal a crime. He who conceals a fraud perpetrates a fraud himself. Gross negligence is equivalent to fraud. Out of fraud, no action arises. No document is a fraud because it is what it is. It is the passing off a document as something that is not that constitutes the act of fraud. He who errs does not consent. He who ERRS does not consent. To lie is to go against the mind. Concealment of the truth is equivalent to a statement of what is false. Suppression of fact, which should have been disclosed, is the same in effect as willful misrepresentation. The multitude who is no excuse for error. No man can give to another more than he himself has. No man has the right not to be offended. No man is considered as committing damage unless he is doing what he has no right to do. No man shall take advantage of his own wrong. No man ought to derive any benefit of his own wrong. No man ought to benefit by another man's losses. No man ought to gain by another man's ignorance. No man ought to enrich himself at the expense of others. No man shall improve his condition by crime. It is a disgrace for a man to be ignorant of that which he is daily engaged. He who acts badly hates the light. Each jurisdiction has its own court. Each office has its own jurisdiction. Every jurisdiction has its own bounds. Two states cannot operate in the same jurisdiction. Two jurisdictions cannot operate in the same state. The order of things is confounded when everyone preserves not his jurisdiction. The order of things is confounded when everyone perseveres not his jurisdiction. Dissimilar things ought not be adjoined. Corinthians 26:14. Truth may be forgotten, but remains the truth. In commerce, truth is supreme. Truth stands supreme. Truth affects, but is not affected. Truth fears, not investigation. Truth is expressed in the form of an affidavit. An affidavit is a law between the parties. An affidavit is a court. Punishment is due if the words in the oath be false. No one is believed in court but upon his oath. An affidavit is indefeasible. It cannot be held party true and party false. One oath ought to be founded on certain knowledge. An infamous person is repelled or prevented from taking an oath. Crime is neither diminished nor expunged by passing time. Let man be punished when he commits the offense. Free men have arms, slaves do not. Sir William Blackstone, Justice of the King's Bench, Justice of the Common Pleas, jurist, author of Commentaries of the Laws of England. No man gives what he does not have. Honesty is the foundation of wisdom. No man shall be a judge in his own cause. One cannot be judge and party. Judge thyself before judging others. He who wishes to control others ought first learn to control himself. Not to believe rashly is the nerve of wisdom. To act done against my will is not my act. Not every submission is a consent. When the proof of facts are presented, what need is there of words? When no man can make a claim in the name of another. No man can make a claim in the name of another. No claim is given to one who has received no harm or no loss. Facts are more powerful than words. Callousness betokens villainy. Villainy betokens callousness. While a crime remains unpunished, the world remains unbalanced. Crimes made in affidavit, if not refuted, emerge as truth of the matter. Intent makes the instrument. The intention of the party is the soul of the instrument. The rebuttal affidavit comes the judgment in law. The affidavit must be rebuted line by line in substance by affidavit. The word of man who will not make oath is worth nothing. The word of man who will not make oath is not to be heard. An infamous man should not be allowed to make an oath. He who states contrary things is not to be believed. He who states contrary things is not to be heard. A man is believed in court, but upon his oath. There is no stronger link among man than an oath. An infamous man is repelled or prevented from taking an oath. No man can be immersed in his absence except for his default. While the battle continues, he who first leaves the field or refuses to contend loses by default. He who is not willing to speak the truth is a betrayer of the truth. He who does not speak the truth is a traitor of the truth. The truth will out. Truth fears nothing except concealment. Suppression of truth is equivalent to the expression of what is false. Punishment is due when the word of an oath be false. If one falsely accuses another of a crime, the punishment due for that crime should be inflicted on the perjured falsifier. Deuteronomy 19:18. A man is free to make any decision he wishes, but a man is never free to escape the consequences of his decisions. Slavery is outlawry. An unequivocal statement prevails over an implication. The expression of one thing is the exclusion of another. All things are presumed against a wrongdoer. An unlawful action voids all following related actions. If a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked. A master is responsible for his servant. A servant must obey the master within the law. Ignorance of the law shall not excuse a man or relieve him from the consequences of a crime or from a liability of a contract. Criminal conspiracy is the agreement of rash men. When the righteous rule, people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people mourn. Perverted minds are easily corrupted. Similar is not the same. The greatest is incitement to guilt, is the hope of sinning with impunity. Justice consists in doing no injury to man. Decency is giving man no offense. Good faith is the foundation of justice. Mistakes, negligent, or misconduct are not to be regarded as accidents. A man may renounce a law introduced for his benefit. No man is obligated to accept a benefit against his consent. No man ought to gain from another man's ignorance. The instigator of a crime is worse than he who perpetrates the crime. They who consent to a wrong and they who do it shall be visited with equal punishment. Acting and consenting parties shall be liable to the same punishment. Intent is not a crime. No man ought to be punished for intent. Punishment ought not precede a crime. He who does not forbid a crime while he may sanctions it. He who does not blame approves. Gross negligence is held equivalent to intentionally wrong. The propriety of the words is the safety of property. It is immaterial whether a man gives his assent by words or by acts or deeds. Ignorance of the law does not excuse misconduct in anyone, least of all sworn officers of the law. No man ought to be judged unheard. A judge ought not practice law from the bench. If you judge, understand. Do not judge when the truth is unknown. No man can be at once judge and party. The twisting of language is unworthy of a judge. The wrongdoing judge is an anathema and an enemy of man. To a judge who exceeds his office or jurisdiction, no obedience is due. A man who acts under an unconstitutional statute does so at his peril and must take the consequences. Everyone is presumed innocent until his guilt be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. No man can transfer a right which he has not. Things taken or captured by pirates and robbers do not change their ownership. No man gives what he does not own. What is mine cannot be taken away without my free will consent. Know who you deal with. Know thyself. Know who you are. A workman is worthy of his hire. In commerce, truth is supreme. Truth is expressed in the form of an affidavit. An unrebuted affidavit stands as the truth in commerce. False spelling and false grammar do not vitiate an affidavit. In commerce, a matter must be expressed to be resolved. He who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. He who is silent appears to consent. Sacrifice is the measure of credibility. A lien claim can only be satisfied by point rebuttal in substance, at law, by affidavit or payment. When not disbarred by tactic, procreation, agreement obtained by default, by jury resolution. Claims made without accountability are void. The Admiralty Court has no jurisdiction over those matters which are determined by law of the land. Principals and associates and agents should suffer the same punishment. He who ratifies a bad action is considered as having ordered it. Okay. Property ought to be valued at the will of the owner. The law allows man to take arms against the armed. A crime may be forgotten, yet remains. A crime is not diminished nor expunged by the passing of time. A wrong is not diminished nor expunged by the passing of time. He adds one offense to another, who, when he commits a crime, joins to it the protection of a defense. The multitude of those who err is no excuse for error. Felony is implied in every treason. A wrong is not presumed. A wrong follows the wrongdoer forever through all jurisdictions. An offense follows an offender forever through all jurisdictions. A crime follows the perpetrated forever through all jurisdictions. He who seeks equity must do equity. He who deservedly loses the benefit of law, who intends to subvert the law himself. Let the infliction of punishment increase as transgressions multiply. If you know not the name of things, the knowledge of things themselves perish. And if you lose the names, the distinction of things is certainly lost. The expression of one thing is the exclusion of all others. Notice to principal is notice to associates and to agents and to successors. Notice to associations and to agents and to successors is notice to principal. Wow. I got through it. I'm going to go ahead and post that up on the website on the services page so it's there for everybody to access. That was sent to me a while ago. However, I didn't know I had it. It was one of those emails that just got missed. But I was going back, looking through some old emails for something I was looking for, and I ran across that. So, anyways, I think this is the kind of things that maybe our children should be learning and our grandchildren should be learning in grade school. I do. They're all so simple and so beautiful. So that's what I can tell you about maxims of law. And it's a lot. So you can listen to this as many times as you need to or want to. You'll be able to get to the website and get this on the services page. I'll title it Maxims of Law. And it should be there within the next 24 hours. It'll be sooner than that. All right, everybody. Let's see. Hey, my pleasure, Josh. So, much love, everybody. I'll be back. I'm going to put been defining words and talking about assemblies and grand juries and powers of the sheriff and powers of the people. I'll be back. We'll be talking about some very specific issues with regards to all of that. So until then, much love. Stay strong. Stay healthy. Have a beautiful day.